Hizi biashara kuna mazingira magumu kwa sababu wale ambao wanapata mshahara, kwa mfano, zile pesa ambazo wao hutumia kwenda kwa hoteli, kwa mfano, kwenda kununua chakula, zimepungua kutokana na yale makato ya mishahara. Kwa hivyo wengi wanashikilia zile hela kidogo walizobakishwa nazo, ndio maana hizi biashara hazisongi mbele. Unasemaje kuhusiana na hili?
Unajua, nimesema ya kwamba Wizara ya Hazina ya Kitaifa imesema ya kwamba iko na mambo manne ambayo inataka kushughulikia ili kujaribu kusawazisha maneno ya kiuchumi na kuhakikisha wananchi wamepata nafuu ya kiuchumi katika household, yani katika individual level, kwa sababu tumekuwa tukikabiliana na mambo ya kijumla. Sasa tunakabiliana na mambo ya kibinafsi, na kati ya hayo majadiliano kutakuwa na sera mpya za mambo ya ushuru na mambo ya kibiashara. Lakini la muhimu zaidi ni kwamba katika hayo majadiliano ni lazima tujue ya kwamba ile ushuru ambao unakatwa, kwa mfano katika mambo ya bima ya afya, unaweza kuwa unapunguza kidogo mshahara wako kama mtu ambaye ameajiriwa kazi, lakini ile bima ambayo ni ya kila mwananchi itapunguza zile harambee za kimatibabu. Kwa hivyo wewe labda pesa yako imepungua kidogo, lakini hizi harambee 5 ama 10 ulikuwa unaitwa kwa sababu uko na mtu kwa familia yako na shida ya figo, shida ya moyo. Hizo harambee zikipungua, there is a net off. Kuna vile hiyo mkato imekunufaisha hata kwa njia zaidi kuliko vile ilikuwa, because
swala la naibu rais, lakini unapozungumzia masuala yote, licha ufanisi huu wote, we've seen the President Dr. Ruto say we are proud that our sister country of Tanzania is now leading in our business engagements. The success of Tanzania is the success of East Africa. Businesses have been, closing shop and going to neighboring countries. So you're speaking of this, and KEPSA has talked about it, that the government seems not to be listening to those who run businesses, that they're escaping to other countries.
I've just told you we are having a conversation with KEPSA. Why don't you call them after this interview?
We did speak a few weeks ago with Bimal Shah.
Should have told you that they are engaging.
And he did say that, whereas that engagement is happening, it is not...
They have identified 2 areas. Yeah. One is the regulatory. They say there is multiple regulation, or what they are calling over-regulation. The second issue on the table is on taxation. We are a bit careful because the issue of taxation, we would rather have it in the broader tax policy and other fiscal issues that are being discussed and spearheaded by the National Treasury than just to take just that business community and handle their taxation issues without the context of looking at tax as a general issue.
I really need to ask a question on the tax regime, because today there has been an announcement that there is a task force that has been formed to get to the bottom of why businesses are closing down in the Republic of Kenya and relocating to other countries. Your Excellency, doesn't that sound absurd? Why do you need a task force to establish why businesses are closing when all you can blame is the taxation regime?
You need to, because this is something that has happened for the last 20 years. It has not happened this year. Just look at which organizations have left Kenya when. The last 25 years. And that's why the contribution of our manufacturing sector to GDP has dropped from as high as 12% many years ago to 7.5%
on the pending bills.
So it's an accumulated problem, and I think there are no quick fixes. The best way to do it is to just analyze all the factors and bring recommendations that will last us another 40, 30 years.
The financial inadequacies being experienced in the country perhaps are as a result of the pending bills. More than 650 billion for the national government, 150 billion for county governments. But you're not budgeting for it. Do you promise Kenyans that as soon as the pending bills verification committee concludes its work, you're going to settle the pending bills?
We will implement the recommendations of the pending bills verification committee.
Thank you.
DP, Tumebakisha dakika kidogo kabla ya kufunga, lakini hii leo kumekuwa na mabadiliko katika baraza la mawaziri na kuna wengi ambao wanahisi kwamba the appointments that have been made seem like a harvest just 10 days after President William Ruto met retired President Uhuru Kenyatta, and all those appointed to the cabinet and board chairs seem to be from Mount Kenya. What is this about?
You know, the cabinet, appointments, dismissal, reassignments, if you look at Article 32, is the prerogative of one person, the president. So I'm sure the changes that the president has made have been made in exercise of that prerogative and to advance our country's national life in the weeks and months to come. I cannot directly associate themselves with the political developments, but also I have no reason to disassociate themselves from any political development, because the president has made it clear that for the country to pull and rally itself to do the heavy lifting, there is need for a broader political consensus. It started with the inclusion of the partnership with some of the ministers who were appointed, who were allies of former Prime Minister Raila Odinga. The ministers and parastatal chairs who have been elected, who have been appointed today, many of them worked under President Uhuru Kenyatta. That is in the spirit of broadening political consensus so that we can focus not on political competition and the quest for political survival, but on pulling the heavy agenda that we need to pull to transform Kenya and carry everybody.
But there are those who
many Kenyans feel duped or betrayed by the Kenya Kwanza administration, because during the 2022 election campaign, the hustler narrative was the cornerstone of the Kenya Kwanza administration, a breakaway from traditional political dynasties to more ordinary Kenyans, right? But the appointments being made recently by President William Ruto are people or individuals from established political families. It looks like the Kenya Kwanza government is running away from the hustler narrative back to the dynasties to save the day. Why is that?
As any of the ministers and parastatal chairs who have been appointed today coming from established political families?
Yeah, they do come largely from the Mount Kenya region, especially.
Sorry again? Sorry again?
They do come, many from the Mount Kenya region, many who've been in government before, and you remember the call, especially during the Gen Z protests, was to drain the swamp, to have something new in the Kenya Kwanza administration.
I don't know what you call something new, because even the ones who have come are new. They were not there, they are new.
Allow me to rephrase her question, because this is what Kenyans feel, that the political class has regrouped and forgotten about what Kenyans want. What would you tell them tonight?
I don't think so. First and foremost, as I said, this is no time for politics. Let's start from there. That time is coming. And we will all do politics and do it so well. Right now, it's time to do the very, very delicate and important work of pushing the country's development agenda. So the issue of, I don't know, who has betrayed who has regrouped with who, for me, the timing is wrong. Okay. And for Kenyans who are expressing their democratic views about some of these developments, they have their time when it is election time to express themselves on what they think about those in leadership.
Your Excellency, to matters now development projects, and we've seen the issue that Kenyans are actually expressing is that this government is forcefully imposing government projects, programs. For instance, vaccination of animals, SHA, that is the Social Health Authority, affordable housing, and I'll begin by that before we get to the specific programs. What do you make of, or what do you think about this? Because Kenyans say it is too soon. It is being buttressed on them. You're forcing it down their throats.
That is not true. Maybe it's a misunderstanding. because has anybody been arrested for not doing anything? What the government is doing is it is doing its obligations to the public. The government's obligation to the public is to work for the national interest. The national interest in this matter includes, for example, universal health coverage, making sure as many Kenyans as possible have medical cover, because many homes have been rendered poor. Even people who had something, they have sold everything to pay for medical bills, especially when it is chronic and critical illnesses. Okay. Many poor people live by chance. They take herbs, they go for, some look for witch doctors, they cannot access medical care. So we are saying, what government is saying is that it is in our interest as a country that every Kenya has an insurance, a medical insurance. It is not taking people to court for not having a medical insurance. Those are two different things.
Okay, fine.
The same with vaccination. What the government is saying about vaccination is that we have certain targets as a country to grow the livestock and that value chain around livestock and livestock products. For us to reach those targets, we need to access European market, the Middle East market, and even the regional market under the African free trade area, and then also under economic EPAS, the partnership between Kenya and the European Union, which we signed last year. In many of these markets, our products are being denied access, and one of the requirements is sanitary and phytosanitary standards. That is to say, health-related standards. One of the requirements for us, for example, to meet our export demand is that your herd must be vaccinated. And what we are rolling out is a vaccination program which has always been there for 40 years, but because there has been no campaign, high-level government campaign, we've been vaccinating about 10% of livestock. So many of our livestock are rejected when we take them out either as live animals or beef because of the vaccination question. So it is purely a disease control issue. The vaccine is developed by Kevevapi in Kabete, by Kenyan scientists. It has always been used. It is only that we are doing a campaign to make sure, other than vaccinating only 10% of livestock, we can have 80, 90, 100% vaccination for purposes of getting market access, exporting livestock and livestock products even to other countries.
DP, it's good that you, before you go to affordable housing, Ashley, because we're still on the vaccination issue, you may be explaining a very good thing for the country, but are you aware that citizens are agitated by the language of their leaders? Is there a more decent way to explain your programs and not seem like you're forcing it down their throats? And I'll give examples. Adani Consolation, the president said it is people who have never been to the airports that are complaining. When it comes to the vaccination, majority leader yesterday, I think, said ni watu hawana ng'ombe, hawana kuku. How do you think that makes citizens feel when they are trying to express themselves, yet they are met with arrogance?
And to add on to that, the Kenya Veterinary Association perhaps has, among the recommendations they've given, they've said improve public awareness, enhance stakeholder engagement. When will Kenyans feel they are participatory in this government, in these projects that affect them?
First of all, we agree that we need to create awareness and also just carry citizens along in our government programs. And also, generally, as government, we need to continue communicating to the people in a manner that is consistent with our obligations under the Constitution. But having said that, I am sure again, because we were here an hour or so ago, I'm sure you are not inviting me to comment on statements by the president or another leader, because let's discuss the issues. Let's not discuss, those kind of issues, because in the process, the message will be lost. And the message is, these programs are for the interest of the nation. There is nothing sinister about it. As to if we need to improve our communication and engagement strategy, I agree with you. It is work in progress. We need to keep on improving.
There's many questions, Mr. GP, whether these questions are really for the interest of the people. We, as the media, have reported every day, Kenyans are deeply frustrated with the Social Health Authority. Many, in fact, say NHIF was working. When you come to issues like affordable housing, we were told there was public participation, despite public discontent. When it comes to livestock vaccination, the same thing. Is the government hiding behind the facade of public participation to pass unpopular programs, knowing very well that there's no legal binding framework on public participation? And so the government really isn't bound by Kenyans who say we don't want SHA.
We'll go back to what we said earlier. The government must continue listening to the people and getting input from the people. But the government also has a duty to carry out programs for the transformation of the country. Some of the programs that will transform Kenya may not be popular now, but they'll be popular sometime. Singapore, for example, which many people praise, one of the factors and anchors that took Singapore where it was, among other anchors, is the housing anchor. And today, if you look at the Human Development Index, Singapore is up there, and one of the variables is housing, because almost 99% of everybody has a decent home. So, and it was unpopular at the time when the Singaporean leader was bringing this program. It was very unpopular. In fact, it had a component of compulsory savings. But today, many years later, after this leader left the scene, the people of Singapore are very happy that this project propelled their country into the first world. So I will end with what I started with, that what is popular may not even be in the public interest. And sometimes what is in the public interest may not be in the national interest. And the work of government is not to look for popularity. Popularity is a function of elections, which we do every 5 years. And every politician has a way of transacting with electorate to look for popularity during election. In between here, it is to engage the people, listen to the people, which we are doing. In many instances, we may not be perfect because government is a human endeavor. Like any other, we are not 100%, but we are continuing to listen. And as the president said during the State of the Nation address, listening is a full-time occupation of every leader.
Thank you very
much. And therefore, these programs may have the kind of, the consensus is not yet there, but they will transform Kenya. And many years later, when many of us who are in this space are not even here, Kenyans will come in succeeding generations will be grateful for the housing program, the universal health program, the agricultural reform program, and all the other programs that this government is rolling out for the transformation of Kenya.
Thank you very much, Deputy President, Professor Abraham Kithure Kindiki, for your time. And I think Kenyans tonight will be waiting to see what will happen next in terms of how you listen, how you communicate, and how you take action after you have made promises. Asante sana. Mimi nimekuwa wako Mashirima Kapombe kutoka runinga ya Citizen.
Joel Chacha kutoka runinga ya K24.
Michelle Ngele Odhiambo, NTV.
John Jacob Kuria, KBC.
Ashley Mazuri, KTN.
George Maringa, TV47.
Usiku mwema mtazamaji.
Chacha, you finished your water. What point?
assume as Deputy President of the Republic of Kenya. I pledge to support and assist President Ruto. We have produced enough sugar for our consumption. Commitment